So this I'll do it. Then I'm going to say review and launch. Okay, we can select this, we can check whatever the settings is, and then I'm going to click on launch button. Now here we will have to create a key pair. So this key pair is important for us to authenticate ourselves to the EC2 instances. So I'm going to say create new key pair, and I'll mention the key pair. Let's say my EC2. This is the key pair name that I'm going to say, and I'll download this key pair. And once it's done, I'm going to launch instances. Now, what I'll do, whatever the one that I have downloaded right now. So this one, I'll paste it in the working directory. Currently, I'm in this local repo folder. So I'll do one thing, I'll say cd, and I'll come back to the main directory, and I'll just go to a folder which I've created earlier, which is my AWS Live. And for this file, for that folder AWS Live, I'll paste the key pair that I've just downloaded, that is my EC2. Whatever the key pair that I've downloaded, I'll just paste it over here. Okay, now being in this folder, I now have the ability to connect, and I now have the ability to communicate. So I'll click on this view instances. Now currently it is initializing. Now for the commands to run to perform the SSH connection to this EC2 instance, you can select the EC2 instance and click on this connect button. So on top, you see there is a connect button. You just have to click on this. Once you click on that, you've got various ways to set up the connection. Currently, we have the SSH way. So we'll use this SSH way to connect to our EC2 instance. So these steps are simple. So I'll have to open my SSH client, and we'll have to locate the private key. So I'm already in that folder, and we'll have to run this command to ensure that the key is not publicly viewable. So I'll paste that. So this command has been run. Next, to connect to the instances, so I'll just have to run the command ssh-i myec2.pem ec2 user @ec2. So this is the command that I have to run. So I'll just paste that, and I'll press the enter key. So this will perform the SSH. Okay, so yeah. So it says, are you sure you want to continue? I'm going to say it as yes. See, I've got a message that says Amazon Linux to AMI. Perfect, which means I've been able to SSH into the EC2 instance which we have just created. Now here, once we do this SSH into this EC2 instance, we will have to install the AWS CLI and code deploy agent. Since we are using this Amazon Linux to AMI, we don't have to install the CLI. CLI comes by default. So what I would do right now is I'm going to say sudo su. That means I'm going to switch to as the super user, that is my root user. Once I switch as my root user, I'm going to update the packages. I'm going to say yum-y update, and I'll press the enter key. So I'll mention the commands, guys, okay? So commands for AWS CLI. So first command is sudo su. Next command, yum-y update. And I'll copy from my personal notes to here. This is followed by yum-ruby wget y, and after that we are going to get the code deploy agents installer. Perfect, guys. So let's run one by one. Okay, currently it has completed. Next, I'm going to install the Ruby, which is a prerequisite. So once I do that installation, okay, so once this is done, I will download the code deploy agents installer. So I'll just run this command. So once this is done, I'm going to change the permission of the installer. Okay, once I change the permissions of my installer, I'm going to install the latest version of my code deploy agent. So this is the command that will install the latest version of the code deploy agent. Now, once this is done, in order to check whether my code deploy agent is running or not, I would say service code deploy -agent status. So here it says the AWS code deploy agent is running as PID 9935. So you should see at least a PID. That should be fine. It doesn't matter whether you get any different ID. The only thing it should show is the code deploy agent should be running in your EC2 instance. So this is the last command. So the command that I've just ran was to check the status, service code deploy agent status. Okay, these are the commands for AWS CLI and code deploy agent installation. Now, once you have done this, the next thing that you have to do is you will have to upload the application file to the S3 bucket. So in my scenario, it's already done, and I'll show you, and I'll add this into this Word document itself so that you'll be able to see how it would look like. So the file that I have is this sample Linux app. It's a very simple Linux application. If this is in zip file, and if I show you the contents of that file, so I just have an appspec.yaml file. If I open this appspec.yaml file, so it just contains the overall instruction. So the source will be index.html, destination will be HTML over here. And the location is, first I'm running this install dependencies. So there's a script that has already written for install dependencies. So it will be running it as a root user, and then it will start the server and it will stop the server. And if I show you how does this install dependencies script file would look like, so this install dependencies file, so it just contains the command that look like this. It says yum install httpd. So I'm just installing the web server, and then I'm starting that server and I'm stopping that server at the end. So this is a very simple app. And if I go to this index.html, so at the end, the index.html, it says, congratulations, the application was actually deployed using AWS code deploy. It's a very simple application. So what we can do right now is, so you have to upload this sample application into your S3 bucket. In my scenario, I've already done that. I'll go to the S3 service. So when you're doing that setting, ensure that your EC2 has the permission to go into your S3 bucket and read this file. And always ensure that just go to the properties, ensure that the versioning is enabled. Ensure that the versioning is enabled for this EC2. Now, here we have uploaded the zip file. You can go ahead and when you create the bucket, just add that zip file. Now, once that is complete, okay, so just note down the key name here. The key name clearly says sample app underscore Linux. So just note down this key name. Okay, my key name is sample app linux.zip. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create a co-deploy application and the deployment group. In order to do that, so I'm going to start my code deploy. So I'm going to start my code deploy, and here I'm going to say create application. So I'll say you can go to get started and get more information and create application, or you can come directly to applications and create the application. So I'll say create application. And for the demonstration purpose, I'm going to say demo app and my compute platform. So for this compute platform, I'm going to say EC2 or on premises. Next, once my app is completed, the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create a deployment group. I'll create like this. And for the deployment group, I'm going to say demo deployment group, and I'll mention the service role. So service role is something which has the code deploy permission that grants AWS code deploy access to the target instances. That means you need to create a new role. You need to create your new role, and this new role should have the access to the code deploy. So I'll repeat again for about the role. This is important. You need to create a code deploy role, or you need to create a service role which has the ability to communicate with the EC2 instances, else you're going to get an error. So in my scenario, I've already created it. So I'm going to select that role. Now for the deployment type, so this tells us how the deployment will happen. For the deployment type, we can specify whether it's an in place or blue. For the demonstration purpose, I'll keep it as in place. And here, my environment configuration, I can select it as Amazon EC2 instances. My key is name, and my EC2 instance is EC2 instances. This is the name that I gave. And here it clearly says one unique matched instance. So this confirms like my deploy was able to communicate and it was able to confirm this EC2 instance that I have. Now we can like I'll select this as never because we have already installed the AWS deploy agent. So I don't want to use AWS system manager to perform the activity again. So I'll select it as never. And for deployment settings, I'm going to say code deploy default all at once. And here you can select one at a time, half at a time. So depending on the requirement, you can specify the deployment configuration. And I'm going to disable the load balancing in this scenario.